the Mercury Cazimi. If you look at the on the 10th, we have Mercury retrogrades kind of approaching the sun, and sun moving towards Mercury there. And then on the 12th, on Venus Day, we have that Mercury Cazimi. I love Cazimi moments, and having a planet kind of go through that heart of the sun it seems like it gets like a sneak peek into the throne room of the sun. Mercury will go direct later in the month and get out of Aries like in May. But how do each of you use moments of Cazimi just personally? I'll just kind of throw that question out. Janessa, you want to go? I just randomly
Sure.
picked.
Yeah, I guess it depends, but I think I mostly use it as like a reflection point. I really always try to make an effort to, especially with Mercury Cazimis, to like meditate that day and make note of anything that kind of comes to me. Even if I don't have the opportunity to meditate, I find that Mercury Cazimis, like, you'll get a message somehow, whether you're actively seeking it or not. So yeah, I kind of look for that, and depending on the situation, it might be a good time to elect to do something. I've definitely done that in the past too.
Yeah, and it looks like it happens just past midnight UK time, so that'll be at like 7 o'clock for the East Coast. So for those in Europe, it might come through in a dream. Mercury as a psychopomp kind of coming through, but we'll be awake in the States, and all the way over to Australia, they'll be awake. So yeah, Sonia, how do you use Cazimi moments?
Yeah, much the same as Janessa. Sometimes I will light a candle to Mercury and do a little ritual for him, because it never hurts to help make some offerings to him and like work with him more consciously. And this is a really good time. The decan here is Venus and Jupiter, and Austin's image is roses in flames. And the tarot card is the Four of Wands. And it's interesting that is like a kind of celebration moment. But the roses in flames makes you think of, well, we're going to just be left with ashes, the beauty of Venus, but then it's made into ash. And I suppose that's kind of resonant of like that Aries thing of that quick fire, but it burns out. And that's kind of like the Cazimi moment as well. You're into that throne room, but he's in that exalted moment, but he's so close to the sun that he can burn. But if you're brave enough to stay and get the message and just risk that moment, and Mercury being reborn as well as the morning star, it's a chance for us to, I've written down a new way of experiencing embodiment, like a chance to step into our dream. If we're seeing this April astrology as like a transition phase for us from Pisces to Aries to Taurus, what they're bringing us, the challenges of Pisces, and then the fieriness of the Ariesness moving through to the Taurus breakthroughs that are going to be offered, and the eclipses there, and then this retrograde happening at the same time. Like looking back, it's like, are we going to step into this embodiment that Mercury is now offering? And this is kind of like the moment of, do we see what it is? That the eclipse is showing us a message, and now Mercury is, and we've had these dreams come through, and it's like all these multiple chances. And astrology is that. There's lots of new beginnings in astrology. We get the new moon every month. But this April, particularly out of the whole year, when we do our year ahead planning, April really stood out with all these significant transits happening. And it just feels like this Cazimi as well is one of those moments of do something to try and connect, even if it is in your dream, of like a conscious maybe prayer to Mercury, or find his image, or make the sigil of the glyph of Mercury, or just something just to be conscious that this is his day of being in that exalted room with the sun, getting his messages, changing his cycle, making a new cycle for us.
And I love that the moon is in Mercury's sign as well. I think that was a nice little wink.
Yeah.
Shauna, do you play around with the Mercury Cazimis?
I'm listening to Janessa and Sonia, and I just love how much intention there is behind both your Cazimi moments. I'm internally laughing at myself because I feel like I always miss the Cazimi moment. I'm Cancer ascendant, which means Gemini's in my 12th house, and I've got Mercury at 28 degrees sitting on Betelgeuse, and I just feel like I'm constantly living in Mercury in a mercurial space. And so I feel like I'm always like, oh, shoot, that just happened. Now what? I feel like I'm always just playing catch up with it. Confetti cannons.
Mercury is the trickster as well. So I wanted to say just one last thing about this. I think that the best thing about Mercury retrogrades is that we get Cazimis. It's like the prize, you know, like the return back to of like going back, like Cinderella going back and getting her, you know, glass slipper. It's this kind of moment that happens because of the retrograde. So, and Mercury goes retrograde more than any other planet because he moves the fastest. Like the moon doesn't go backwards, and you know, so people will often disparage astrology, and they know the phrase Mercury retrograde as if we blame things on Mercury for going retrograde, but he does go retrograde more than any other. So it's like a phrase that has slipped out of the astrology bubble and into the mainstream. But there's a reason for that. So